On a quiet suburban street, a black teenager simply walked home from practice, yet within minutes, flashing red and blue lights turned his world upside down. A woman's false assumptions spiraled into something darker, something that could have ended tragically. She believed she held the power to control the situation, dialing 911 with a trembling voice laced with fear and prejudice. But what she didn't know would soon silence her arrogance completely. Because when the truth of who this young man's mother really was came to light, the entire balance of power shifted in a way she never could have imagined. The teenager's name was Jordan. At 16, he was bright, disciplined, and known for his dedication on the basketball court. His afternoons were often spent practicing late into the evening, running drills, and pushing himself to earn a scholarship. His world revolved around family, school, and dreams of one day being the first in his family to play college-level sports. The neighborhood he lived in wasn't particularly diverse. Rows of manicured lawns stretched endlessly, punctuated by homes that seemed identical in structure but not in spirit. Some families were warm and welcoming. Others, however, looked at Jordan with suspicious eyes whenever he passed by, as though his very presence disrupted the uniform calm of their suburban existence. Despite this, Jordan carried himself with quiet dignity. His mother, Angela, had raised him with resilience and pride. She instilled in him the belief that hard work and education were the keys to breaking barriers. Though Angela held a demanding career, she never missed his games, never failed to remind him of his worth. But beneath the surface of this seemingly peaceful community ran undercurrents of tension. Jordan noticed it in the way some neighbors clutched their purses tighter when he jogged past. He felt it when security staff shadowed him in stores, though he never caused trouble. He saw it in the way whispers followed him, though no one spoke directly to him. And then there was Mrs. Whitman. A longtime resident in her late 50s, she prided herself on keeping the neighborhood safe. She had a watchful eye from her porch, where she sat daily as if guarding the block. To her, Jordan's tall frame, dark skin, and athletic attire didn't represent a teenager walking home, they represented a threat. On that particular afternoon, Jordan was sweaty from drills and still wearing his team hoodie. He carried his backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in, and his phone buzzing with reminders of homework he needed to finish later. He thought only of a hot shower and dinner. But to Mrs. Whitman, his presence spelled danger. She noticed him walking past her driveway and froze. Her mind twisted an ordinary sight into something sinister. In her head, Jordan was casing houses, lingering too long, not from here. It didn't matter that she had seen him countless times before. That day, she decided to act. Mrs. Whitman's eyes narrowed as Jordan approached. She whispered to herself about strange activity and dialed 911 without hesitation. The words she used were carefully chosen, enough to trigger urgency. A suspicious male, walking around, might be dangerous. In reality, Jordan had done nothing except walk down his own street. Jordan remained unaware, music muffling the world around him. He didn't see Mrs. Whitman's frantic gesturing or hear the dispatcher promising that officers were on their way. All he knew was that he was nearly home, steps away from his front yard. The first hint that something was wrong came when flashing lights bounced off the houses. A patrol car pulled up sharply, its engine growling. The officers stepped out quickly, tension already etched across their faces. To them, the situation was a potential threat, fueled by Mrs. Whitman's exaggerated account. "Hands where we can see them," one officer barked. Jordan froze, panic rising in his chest. He tugged out his earbuds, utterly confused. His mind raced. What did I do? Why are they here? Neighbors peeked through blinds, some stepping out to witness the unfolding scene. Jordan felt exposed, humiliated. He raised his hands, trembling, while one officer advanced cautiously, already reaching toward his holster. Mrs. Whitman stood proudly on her porch, convinced she had prevented a crime. She muttered loudly enough for others to hear, painting herself as the hero of the neighborhood. "I knew he didn't belong," she said with a smirk. Jordan tried to explain who he was, that he lived just a few doors down, that he was simply coming from practice. But the officers, conditioned by false information, doubted his every word. They questioned his identity, demanded proof of residence, and ordered him not to move. The humiliation deepened when one officer insisted on searching his bag. Jordan's face burned with shame as they pulled out nothing more than sweaty gym clothes, textbooks, and a water bottle. Still, suspicion lingered in their eyes. Every passing second stretched unbearably. Jordan thought of his mother, how she always warned him to remain calm, never resist, and above all, survive. The injustice seared his chest, but survival was his only goal. As the officers radioed in his name to check for warrants, neighbors gathered in growing numbers. Some whispered uncomfortably, recognizing Jordan, realizing the accusations were unfounded. Others stood silently, unwilling to confront Mrs. Whitman. Then, the sound of another car approaching broke the tension. A sleek black sedan pulled into the driveway at the end of the block, Jordan's driveway. Out stepped Angela, his mother, returning home earlier than expected. She was dressed in her professional attire, her badge gleaming at her side. Angela stepped forward with authority, her presence commanding immediate attention. She wasn't just Jordan's mother, she was a high-ranking city attorney, well known among law enforcement. The officers stiffened the moment they recognized her. The sight of her son, hands raised and fear etched on his face, sent a surge of controlled fury through her. She walked straight past Mrs. Whitman, who suddenly shrank back, her confidence faltering. Angela's eyes locked on the officers, who now hesitated, realizing the gravity of their mistake. The tension was electric. Jordan's heart pounded as his mother calmly but firmly demanded answers. The power dynamic shifted in an instant. The same officers who moments ago treated him like a criminal now scrambled to justify their actions. Their clipped tones wavered as they stumbled over excuses, citing a concerned neighbor's report. Angela's expression hardened. She pointed out the obvious: her son had committed no crime, carried nothing suspicious, and lived right there. She reminded them that false reports based on prejudice endangered lives, especially black lives. Her voice carried not only the weight of a mother's anger but the authority of someone who knew the law inside and out. And Mrs. Whitman? She stood frozen, her earlier bravado gone. When she realized who Jordan's mother was, her face paled. No apology formed on her lips. Instead, she stammered, eyes darting as if searching for an escape from the humiliation now crashing down on her. The street fell silent. Neighbors watched, some shifting uncomfortably, others silently relieved justice had arrived. For the first time, Mrs. Whitman's narrative collapsed. She was no longer the vigilant protector of the neighborhood, she was the instigator of racial profiling that nearly cost a boy his safety. Angela's presence alone dissolved the threat, but the damage had already been done. Jordan lowered his trembling hands, but the memory of flashing lights and suspicion wouldn't fade easily. That night, as the crowd dispersed and the officers retreated with sheepish apologies, the weight of what happened lingered. For Jordan, it was a lesson far too heavy for a teenager to carry, that no matter how innocent his actions, someone's prejudice could rewrite the story in an instant. For Angela, it was a reminder that her professional status couldn't shield her son from the dangers of racism. Mrs. Whitman avoided eye contact for weeks afterward. Though she never offered a direct apology, whispers spread through the neighborhood about what she had done. The mask of her safety watchdog persona was gone, replaced by the undeniable truth: she had endangered a child because of the color of his skin. The incident left scars. Jordan's confidence wavered for a time, though he leaned on his mother's strength to keep moving forward. And for those who watched that day, a quiet awareness settled in. They could no longer deny that racism wasn't just something distant or abstract, it lived among them, shaping lives in their very own street. And so the story leaves us with a haunting question: how many more times will innocent lives be endangered because of one person's prejudice? Because one phone call, one assumption, can escalate into something irreversible. And while justice may sometimes step in at the right moment, the damage of racism always lingers far longer than the flashing lights fade.